Genetic engineering is a technology owned by multinational chemical and pharmaceutical corporations and is a complex science. Many scientists believe it is a good process to use, but others state that the true impacts of the introduction of new species may not be understood for generations, if understood at all. Genetically engineered plants have positive effects on the environment while at the same time posing risk. There is much controversy on how the genetic engineering of crops will affect the environment. Today, I'll explain to you how genetic engineering is done, what the positive effects on the environment are, and what the negative effects on the environment are. Let me explain to you how genetic engineering is done. According to Are You What You Eat, issued April-May 2007 by Roxanne Miller, an assistant professor of secondary and science education in California, there are two main ways that a crop or a plant can be genetically engineered. The first way that a plant can be modified is through selective breeding. Selective breeding is done by choosing a particular parent stock or particular plants and cross-fertilizing them, taking a male and female specimen and combining them to produce offspring with desired traits of the parents. Such traits in the production of crops are color, taste, size, and yield, which is the amount of a product produced. The second main way is through gene silencing. In gene silencing, certain parts of an organism is removed or silenced. Gene silencing is done to remove DNA from an organism that can cause allergic reactions or even gastric distress to those who consume it. Now that we know how genetic engineering is done, let's look at the positive aspects genetic engineering crops has on the environment. Some aspects of the environment are positively affected by genetic engineering, according to Margaret Mellon's article on the environmental effects of genetically modified food crops in 2010. Some wild plants gain advantage from Bt, which means insect-resistant sunflower. Recent research from 3 U.S. universities showed that Bt, insect-resistant, genes that move into wild sunflowers from Bt crop sunflowers confer substantial advantages on other non-affected plants. Insect-resistant wild plants, probably as a result of reduced insect damage, produce more seeds than the wild relatives that had not received the Bt gene. An adverse effect on commercialization, the process of introducing a new product into the market of Bt sunflowers, would be wild, weedy sunflowers able to protect themselves from insect pests. Wild relatives gain advantage from engineered virus-resistant squash. 2 Cornell University scientists found that virus-resistant genes, which moved from a transgenic genetically modified squash crop into wild relatives, gave those relatives an advantage over others that had not received the gene. Under high pressure from virus disease, the virus-resistant wild relatives in a study produced more fruits and viable seeds than the non-virus-resistant control plants. According to Genetically Modified Foods, Harmful or Helpful, written in April 2000 by Deborah B. Whitman, it is a positive impact that genetically modified crops and plants can be modified to resist certain natural disasters. With the positive aspects of genetically engineering crops recently discussed, now we will look at the negative aspects of genetically engineered crops. Genetically engineered crops pose 4 different environmental risks according to What Are the Dangers from Mothers of Natural Law 2001. The first risk is that there would be an increased use of herbicides and pesticides, which are used to kill weeds and insects. Scientists estimate that farmers that have plants that have been genetically engineered to use herbicide resistant will greatly increase the amount of herbicide used. The pesticides manufactured within the genetically engineered crops may be classified as pesticides by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, which puts more chemicals in our food. The most hazardous risk is that gene pollution cannot be cleaned up. Once genetically engineered organisms, bacteria, and viruses are released into an environment, it is impossible to contain or recall them. The negative effects of genetic engineering are irreversible. Now I've explained to you how genetic engineering is done and what the positive and negative effects on the environment are. Genetically engineered plants have positive effects on the environment while at the same time posing risk. Many people have different views on genetic engineering crops because of the effects they could have on the environment. Today I told you how genetic engineering can be done, the positive effects it has on the environment, and the negative effects it has on the environment. The advance of genetic engineering makes it quite conceivable that we will begin to design our own evolutionary progress, stated Isaac Asimov. Genetic engineering is tampering on a monumental scale, and nature will surely exact a heavy toll for this trespass, said Eva Novotny. Nobody knows for sure if genetic engineering is good or bad, or right from wrong. In our new future, that answer will be found.